from the mobile Hudson Media Group studio right here in the Uribe compound. This is Talking Politics, and I am the professor, Fernando Uribe. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get started. Here's what I'm thinking about right now. Folks, and it shouldn't surprise anybody, but with less than 100 days to go until Election Day, the Democratic challenger, Joe Biden, is once again pandering for every possible vote that he can. And who did he direct his approach to? Well, it was the Muslim community. And ladies and gentlemen, let me just give you some details here to sort of unpackage the latest attempt by Joe Biden, in a very desperate one to say the very least, about securing votes in trying to unseat President Donald Trump coming up on November the 3rd. Now, the former vice president said it's time for U.S. schools to ramp up Islamic curriculum across the country. Now, the presidential hopeful and his remarks came during the, quote, Million Muslim Vote Summit, which was hosted by Engage Action. Now, one of the things that the former vice president wanted to say, quote, is, look, one of the things that I think is important is I wish we taught more in our schools about the Islamic faith. And Mr. Biden praised Islam as one of the greatest confessional faiths while claiming it was routinely maligned by President Donald Trump. We all come from the same root in terms of our fundamental basic beliefs. And I just want to thank you for giving me the opportunity, for being engaged, for committing to action this November. You're doing what has never been done before. You're registering and turning out more than 1 million Muslims this November. And it matters, because under this administration, we've seen an unconscionable and unconscious rise in Islamophobia. Well, here's a couple of things, folks. First of all, there's no Islamophobia. That's just nonsense by the former vice president. And I'm going to be very careful how I say this, because I know some of you get easily triggered when you watch this program. But the last thing we need in our curriculum, in our public schools, is Islamic studies. Okay? Because let me be very clear about something. And I'll even quote a liberal like Bill Maher, who I very rarely ever agree with anything on. But there are two things that Bill Maher gets right all the time: the nonsense about political correctness and Islam. Folks, there is no more of an oppressive institution on this planet than Islam. I don't want to hear anyone bitch and moan to me about Christianity or Judaism or any other faith. I get it, folks. I was raised Catholic because I'm Hispanic, and Christianity is, quite honestly, the most prevalent religion that's being practiced in Latin America. Okay? But even I know that despite all of Christianity's faults and defects, it's nowhere near as oppressive in the present day as Islam. Okay? Because we're not stoning people who are gay in this country. All right? And there's nobody who's Christian that's doing that. Okay? But you know where they're doing that? They're doing that in Islamic countries, in the Middle East. Okay? You don't believe me? Check out what they're doing in Saudi Arabia. Check out what they're doing in Syria. Check out what they're doing in Iran. And you mean to tell me, Joe Biden, that you think we should have more Islamic studies in this country? Hell no. All right? All I ever hear from liberals consistently is, oh, there's a separation of church and state in this country. Because whenever there's even an inkling of trying to share anything about Christianity in the public square or our public schools, you know what? Liberals everywhere have a tantrum. Oh, that's not right. Oh, we can't by any means push Christianity on anybody, whether it's a moment of prayer, a moment of silence, or anything. Oh, that's just not acceptable because, we all know about the evils of Christianity. Can someone remind liberals about the evils of Islam? Have we forgotten how they treat women throughout the Muslim world? Have we forgotten how they treat minorities like gay people? I mean, are you crazy? Now, listen, you might say that the aforementioned is Islamophobic. It's not. It really isn't. It's telling you the truth. Okay? Because you can check out Pew polls, you can check out other data that clearly suggest that even more moderate Muslims in the Muslim world still hold some pretty radical beliefs. And this is what you want in our curriculum, Mr. Vice President? You're out of your mind. Now, again, folks, the fact that Joe Biden has been demonstrating clear signs of dementia for many, many months now, listen, that's no one's surprise. But here's just another example where Joe Biden has just lost his damn mind. Okay? Listen, if you don't want religion in our public schools because, hey, again, the separation of church and state, I'm with you. Fine, I can deal with that. But now all of a sudden you think that Islamic studies should be forced on our kids in our public schools? Hell no. I'm sorry, that's just not proper. And again, if you're telling me about a faith that doesn't oppress women, that doesn't penalize homosexuality with death, because that's what they do, all right? Check out some of the countries I just mentioned in the Middle East, and guess what? If you're gay, hey, it sucks to be you, because you know what? You may not live too long. And if you're a woman, I hate to tell you, you're pretty oppressed. You can't drive, you can't vote, you can't do anything, because you have to be subservient to your husbands. And this is what we want taught in our public schools, Joe Biden? Are you serious? You're out of your mind. And you know what? I'm proud to say it, because someone has to. Someone has to call out the double standards and the typical hypocrisy that is demonstrated by the American left. Now, I get it. Joe Biden's pandering for every vote he possibly can, because despite some of these misleading polls, right, where it has him up 10 to 15 points on Donald Trump, which we all know is a farce. We all know it's a lie. Because what happened 4 years ago? Didn't we hear, lead up to election night, about Hillary Clinton having a 20-point lead on Donald Trump? Well, guess what? The silent majority spoke loud and clear on election night. And I'm going to tell you something right now. Based on some of the radical ideas that the Democratic Party is putting forth, whether it's defunding the police, whether it's something like this, or just the fact that they're enabling all this chaos in multiple blue cities across this country, you think Joe Biden's an easy lock for the presidency? He's not, folks. Listen, the president's not very popular among some people. He's not a very likable guy at times. But I'm going to tell you something right now. If you think Joe Biden's the answer, after being in government for over 40 years and having done absolutely nothing, and now promising to clean up America in 4 years, and you believe that? I'm sorry. Let me guess. You probably think Stevie Wonder is going to become a driving instructor too, right? That's how gullible you must be if you think that Joe Biden's being sincere. So when he addresses Muslim organizations and says, you know what, we need to introduce Islamic studies into our public schools, folks, that's pandering. That's pandering of the worst kind. When we all know that if we want to keep our public schools, right, sort of like non-religious, or make sure that they remain secular, well, this isn't really accommodating that. So shame on you, Joe, for trying to force feed this on our kids. Because the last thing our kids need to learn about is Islam in our public schools. And that's what I'm thinking about right now. In the latest edition of the 3-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, which you can listen to live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson, was West New York Commissioner Cosmo Cirillo. We spoke for over an hour on a variety of different topics, and here are some highlights for your consideration. First and foremost, we discussed the impact that COVID-19 has had on the town of West New York, and what the administration has been doing throughout this entire pandemic to help out residents. Let's check out what he had to say about it.
I think we've been seeing since the spring, and thankfully we've been seeing a good decline of COVID positive cases and subsequently COVID related deaths. And it's something that it's affected us all in one shape or another right now from the spring going into the summer months. And you mentioned about providing services and how important it is at a local level. And I talked about it briefly at the start of the show when I announced my sponsors. And obviously, I'm very grateful to the town and, Business Administrator Jonathan Castañeda for believing in this podcast. But one of the things that really I have to applaud, I know mayors and other municipalities have been doing it, but it's the summer food service program that you're all doing in West New York. And I have to tell you, as I read the sort of the description during the beginning of the broadcast and at the end, this has to be overwhelmingly time consuming. I mean, I know it's necessary and it's obviously enriching to help the residents in West New York the way all of you are doing. But man, this sounds laborious.
Yeah, I'm extremely proud of the entire staff here at Town Hall. Everybody has stepped to the forefront to make sure that the services that we're providing to residents are of the same quality that we want to provide, regardless of the circumstances that we're under right now. But in addition to that, specifically with the summer food program, recreation has really stepped up. It's overseen by our recreation staff here in town, and they have various sites. We have 5 different sites in town in which we're providing, through a partnership not only with the town but with the West New York Board of Education, breakfast and lunch through the Board of Education, and then dinner and a snack through the Recreation Department. So we're giving individuals that are in need an entire day's worth of meals each and every day from Monday through Friday at 5 different sites here in West New York.
And without a doubt, I mean, obviously, when we're seeing this sort of service in effect, it's been extremely beneficial. I mean, we know, Cosmo, listen, let's be real. COVID has changed our lives, I would argue, forever. And I'm not trying to sound hyperbolic here, but this is the stuff you read about in books and you watch in movies, and you never think for a second that it could ever materialize in the everyday. But it has. And it seems like it's going to be a permanent occupant in our day-to-day for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, a year ago, nobody would have ever thought we'd be dealing with anything similar to this, let alone this type of pandemic. And it really emphasizes the need for not only the local elected officials, but all of our employees in our community to come together. And the summer food program really emphasizes that, and it shows what the community needs at this point in time. You have a lot of people that are unemployed, that have been unemployed for some time now because of businesses being shut down and different types of businesses that are affected by the pandemic. So a lot of those people haven't been able to take home the type of money that they're used to and been able to put food on their table. So when we can offer something as valuable as food to our constituents, it's something that was a no-brainer for us. The mayor and all the commissioners jumped on board right away, and we wanted to make sure that we provided as many meals to as many families as possible. And if I can say, and actually today a different type of distribution is also taking place in town. We have, through our partnership with the USDA, produce boxes. These are 10-pound produce boxes that are being distributed to various families in need that have reached out to us, whether it be the mayor's office, our constituent services areas, or the commissioner's offices. For those people that are having trouble putting food on their table, we're getting about 500 of these boxes delivered on Wednesdays that we're giving out to the communities in various different areas. So even that is something that's being of help to those people that need to be able to provide food for not only themselves but their families.
Secondly, we address the direction of the Democratic Party, and leading up to primary day, some very progressive challengers were aiming their vitriol at U.S. Representative Albio Cirillo. Certainly, Commissioner Cirillo had a lot to say about his loyalty to the Democratic Party, and more importantly, to U.S. Representative Albio Cirillo. Let's hear what he had to say about it.
A couple weeks ago, due to COVID, obviously we know that Governor Murphy made primary day number 1 in July instead of its usual, first Tuesday of June. And certainly because of COVID, primary day was strictly on a vote-by-mail basis. At the local level, our congressman here in the 8th Congressional District where we live, between you and I, between West New York, New York City, and the other municipalities, we know that Albio was being challenged by a very vocal, at times obnoxious, progressive, and we know that for the most part in North Hudson, there was complete solidarity behind Albio. But we know that within the structure of the HCDO, the Hudson County Democratic Organization, there were some elected officials that chose not to support Albio, that chose not to support incumbents. And one was an elected official down south, right? Jersey City Ward E Councilman James Solomon. And for our listeners that maybe aren't aware of what Ward E is, I mean, that's, the downtown area, probably the area that's probably the most attractive to live in Jersey City, down by the waterfront, down by, the Exchange Place, Grove, whatever. But it seems like it sent a ripple effect. And I talked about it with my guest last week and the week before here on the podcast, where it seems that, an ambitious councilman down in Jersey City felt it wasn't necessary to support incumbents, especially someone like Representative Cirillo, who, listen, he's a very proud Democrat, but he's not a very far left Democrat. He always seems like Albio is a very center-left guy. I find it odd that incumbent officials wouldn't have not supported him, but that's not the case. We know that this councilman is very, very liberal, very, very progressive, and I guess he felt it wasn't in his best interest to support Albio and other incumbents. Listen, you're a proud Democrat. Was there any ripple effect, or what was the chatter up in West New York or North Hudson among Democrats that, hey, listen, it seems like there are some within the HCDO that aren't supporting incumbents like U.S. Representative Cirillo?
Well, I would say, listen, one of the greatest things about our democracy is our ability to choose, right? We choose our elected representatives, we choose our elected officials, and that gives us the ability to have the country that we live in today. So I never take that away from anyone to make a personal choice on who they would or would not like to support. For myself personally, I can speak on my own experiences and for the experiences that I've had here in West New York. Congressman Cirillo has been a true advocate for the people of our town for quite some time. He served here, obviously, as the mayor. He served our district as an assemblyman and then went on to be the Speaker of the New Jersey General Assembly from Hudson County. and then obviously now serves as our congressional representative down in Washington, D.C. So for me, the choice was easy. It's about choosing somebody that has shown their commitment and dedication to serving the constituents of not only Hudson County, but his entire district, and someone who is homegrown and made sure that his roots are here in the town that he loves so much. And it's something that he hasn't forgotten over his time in Washington, D.C., in which many others may have forgotten during their time down there. So he's shown time and time again to be able to work with the local elected officials to bring in needed resources from the federal government as needed throughout his time in Washington. So for me, it was an easy choice to support Congressman Cirillo, and I'm glad to see that he did very well on primary day.
Yeah, apparently he did. I think it was an overwhelming percentage that he won by. I think the official results have not been certified yet, but from what I can tell from numbers right now that are out there, it seems like U.S. Representative Cirillo has won in a very convincing fashion. Let me ask you this, though, Cosmo, because every month I have HCDO chairwoman Amy DeGees on the show, and she's very gracious to donate her time to this program every single month since becoming the chairwoman in June of 2018. But I asked her a question, and, Amy also, I think, is someone who's very, she's center-left, but not like crazy radical, not crazy liberal or progressive, thank God. But even Amy, I think, at times was even intimating that there's a legit concern, I think, among registered Democrats in Hudson County that maybe the party is moving too far left and trying to maybe acquiesce to, just radical positions or just very liberal individuals or very progressive individuals. You're a registered Democrat. You're a devoted member of the HCDO. Do you share that concern that maybe the party is moving too far left, whether even at the local level? We saw that, in the last year or so, I think we saw a lot of progressive voices taking to social media, at times denigrating the chairwoman, at times denigrating, U.S. Representative Cirillo because they weren't liberal enough or far left enough or progressive enough. Is there a risk that the party, whether it's at the local, state, or national level, is maybe moving too far left? Like, isn't the goal to try to move maybe towards the center and attract those voters that are sort of traditional Democrats and maybe are just, not conservative, but, moderates? Isn't that the goal at the end of the day, or is this healthy?
Well, I would see the goal as being able to work for what is best in the views of the party for their constituencies and then ultimately for the country. Myself, I consider myself more moderate in nature. When you do see what's happening now as far as the inner workings of the Democratic Party and the factions that are being formed, to me it seems very similar to what the Republican Party had went through with the Tea Party and the far right. It's something internally that each of the parties are now having to deal with, and eventually my hope would be that the party does find itself in a position that puts the party in the ability to help the most people possible. I do feel that compromise is important at any level of government. It's important because I can't sit here and tell you that on every issue, any one party is going to be 100% right at any given time.
Yeah.
I think that compromise is very important at any governmental level, and it's something that we emphasize, especially at the local level, because party issues aren't really seen as much locally. It's about how the town's running, how people's quality of life is living, and realistically there's no Democratic or Republican way to ensure that the trash collection is being taken care of, that the quality of life is being improved. It's about the care that you put into the office that you're holding. You see it more on maybe the state and federal levels, but to me, the best outcomes are going to be those that are worked on by both parties, and that people can come together with different views, have their shared opinions, be able to discuss and debate, which is the foundation of how our system was developed, and ensure that all voices are heard before decisions move forward. And if it is in which one party is going to move too far one way or the other, I think that's going to be very difficult to get an accomplished goal in which you're going to see the greatest good for the greatest amount of people.
Once again, it was a very informative episode, and you can listen to it in its entirety by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/talkinthehudson. I'll continue to bring you these exclusives all year long on Blog Talk Radio. And now some local stories for your consideration. And a special thank you to John Hines from the Hudson County View for his report on the following. Now, due to the results finally being certified on primary day, it's safe to assume that U.S. Representative Albio Sires won in a convincing fashion. But that hasn't stopped Hector Oseguera from foolishly trying to explain away his loss on primary day, once again, to Albio Sires. Now, Hector Oseguera went on to say, quote, "I'm just getting started after a hard-fought battle with Albio Sires. It's been an honor of a lifetime," he said, "seeking to represent the people of our district. We came out of nowhere with a simple vision to bring working class concerns like gentrification, a lack of health care, and over-policing to the forefront of our political discourse. These are clearly popular positions because running on those issues was a tremendous success." Now, while the result wasn't even anywhere close, with Albio Sires winning by a margin of 69 to 29, apparently Oseguera's aggressive style and his progressive platform garnered some attention statewide and even some national attention. Nevertheless, though, the challengers went on to say that the end result was historic, since he was able to notch 29% of the vote in Hudson County, far better than other recent challengers in the district. We sought to activate voters in a way that never had been tried in the district, and took home the largest percentage by a primary challenger ever in the district. Now, folks, let me just be very clear about something, because, perhaps Hector, I don't know, is oblivious to numbers, like a lot of people on the left are. They struggle with basic math, they struggle with economics, they struggle with basic stuff like, high school biology, as well as engaging in climate hysteria. So again, some of these things are, topics that many people on the left struggle with. So whether it was him or other pieces of work that ran off the line as progressive challengers, which included Roger Quesada and others, again, I think this is really nothing to be proud of, folks. And I'll put it into the context of sports. Okay, if you're watching an NFL game and a team beats another team by a margin of 69 to 29, I don't think fans of the losing team would go on to say, "Oh my God, we did really well. We put up 29 points. You still gave up 69 points." All right, so I get it. Listen, running campaigns isn't easy, and I applaud that for anyone trying to get involved in politics. But give me a break, Hector. To try to even insinuate that this was close or this is something to be proud of, fine, I get it. You put a lot of work in, good for you. As well as some of your other progressive challengers, like Roger Quesada, who I'm sure got slaughtered as well, like he always does whenever he runs for office. But the idea that this is something to build on, folks, listen, let's be very clear. Hudson County remains a very solidly blue area of New Jersey. Okay, and the Hudson County Democratic Organization does a very good job in registering Democrats. And by and large, most Democrats in Hudson County tend to be center-left or moderates. They're not far-left radical progressives like Hector Oseguera or even Roger Quesada or the other ones that ran off the line. So the idea that this is some sort of showing that, hey, you know what, I can sort of, put my head up high about, no, it's not. Again, you know what, when you lose by a margin of 69 to 29, listen, just take the L, for the love of God. Don't try to explain it away or try to rationalize it. You sound foolish, and more importantly, you look foolish in trying to do so, whether it's yourself or anyone else. And here's a word of advice for Hector Oseguera, Roger Quesada, and others who ran off the line as progressive challengers. Do me a favor, stick to the platform, stick to topics. When you take to social media and engage in name calling, engage in personal attacks, you know what, that's going to turn people off. And that's exactly what happened. You probably could have had a higher turnout if you just acted like adults. But when you resort to name calling, as it was referenced to Hudson County Democratic Organization Chair Amy DeGees, or even myself on social media, let me tell you something. Pay attention to your opponents and not people like myself. And trust me, if you do that, maybe next time around when you decide to run for office, you'll have a better showing. But in the meantime, you need to grow up and not engage in such childish tactics. That's what turns people off. And that's why you probably didn't have a higher turnout. So, listen, again, I'm not a master of campaign management by any stretch of the imagination, but I know one thing: when you turn negative, people turn on you, and that's exactly what happened to people like Hector Oseguera, Roger Quesada, and others recently on primary day. And here's another local story that should probably make you shake your head, as has been reported on multiple outlets throughout not just Hudson County but the state of New Jersey. There are no reopening plans for the American Dream Mall, as the tenants have flown, and ultimately the owner has skipped out on some mortgage payments. Let me just give you a little bit of a background here about what's going on. But after nearly 2 decades of construction delays, the mega mall located right on Route 3 in East Rutherford, New Jersey, which opened last October, is now closing. Now, some 6 months later, the 3 million square foot venue was forced to close its doors because of the coronavirus pandemic. And even as the state continues its gradual reopening, there is still no reopening date for the $5 billion mall. As reported recently on NJ.com, the 555 Group has missed 3 consecutive mortgage payments, and retail tenants alike are getting out of their leases at the space within the American Dream Mall. Now, before it closed on March 8th, 8% of the American Dream had opened to the public, which included a Nickelodeon-branded indoor theme park, an NHL regulation-sized ice skating rink, a golf course, and even an indoor ski slope. The rest of the mall was set to open in phases, which included an observation wheel nearly as tall as the Statue of Liberty, a 400-seat food court with up to 18 full-service restaurants, and retailers, which included Saks Fifth Avenue, Tiffany & Company, Dolce & Gabbana, H&M, and Zara. Subsequently, they were supposed to open this past March. Now, the mall lost 2 tenants prior to the pandemic, which were Lord & Taylor and Barney's New York, both of which got out of their lease at the mall after closing the stores in New York City. Once again, as reported by NJ.com, other possible tenants currently considering ditching their space at the American Dream Mall include Forever 21, Victoria's Secret, and the Children's Place, which are all struggling amid the pandemic. Folks, it's a sad ending to a 20-year saga here in the state of New Jersey. And when you drive on Route 3, whether it's to go to Route 17, to go to the Turnpike, to go to Route 120, you happen to pass by the American Dream Mall or even MetLife Stadium. And I have to tell you, I mean, it's 2 of the ugliest structures you'll ever see. And for the last 20 years, it's reminded us about the ineptitude that comes out of Trenton when they subsidize and use taxpayer dollars to pay for this sort of structure. Whether it was construction delays or the fact of not getting on board collectively as both the legislature and the governor's office for the last 20 years, this reminds us, folks, about how incompetent New Jersey government can become. And quite honestly, the ineptitude that has come to personify Trenton for nearly 2 decades. It's sad to say, though, folks, again, when it opened last October, there were a lot of expectations and some high hopes that finally, after so long, that eyesore in the Meadowlands was finally going to be used for something productive. Because we all know nothing productive is coming out of MetLife Stadium with the 2 sorry-ass franchises that play there. But nevertheless, though, when we see that this mall is now finally closing, it should remind us all about some of the waste that comes out of Trenton. And who knows, this probably won't be the last time you'll see taxpayer dollars wasted by not only the New Jersey legislature, but also by other venues here in the state of New Jersey. And that's our show for this week. To check out all of the excellent programming brought to you by the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air, please go to their websites, www.hmgtvshows.com, www.livestream.com/HMGTV, and www.njonair.com. Make sure you like the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air on Facebook and follow them both on Instagram and Twitter. And live every Wednesday night at 9 p.m., you can listen to the 3-time award-winning podcast, Talking the Hudson, by going to www.blogtalkradio.com/Talking the Hudson. And never forget, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, you know it's always talking politics right here with the Hudson Media Group and NJ On Air. I'm Fernando Uribe. Thank you so much for watching.
Don't forget to catch Fernando's podcast at blogtalkradio.com/talkonthehudson. New episodes available every Wednesday night at 9 p.m.